get started here. Um, I'll just share real quickly something that's exciting in my business and what we've been up to. Um, it's a couple things, and I'm not sure what to make of it actually, because um, we have um, Klaus, who's been on the think tank with us before, and Klaus is doing something very similar, and we've been kind of talking together on the side, and then I kind of visited the GRC has been doing these kind of discussions, specific, kind of like a think tank discussion or a mastermind discussion, but looking at a case study of someone's project, and got to go and visit Klaus's project, and he's invited me to take part in their team and what they're doing, but to kind of handle or think about ways that I can tackle the education side of things. And so Monday, we're gonna have this conversation about what it would look like to kind of partner with what Seeds of Dow is doing, with what the project Klaus has kind of outlined for building out food systems and helping to support and create entrepreneurial endeavors within the food system. And so that's something that I'm excited about to kind of explore, because there's some he's building out a decent team that looks like it can do some really great work. And so I'm excited about that. And then we're still slowly making progress on our move to Panama and building out the systems there. I know Christiana was on for just a split second. Maybe she's going to hop back on, or she just got booted for a sec. But Christiana has kind of been involved in Klaus's project, or has suggested that she wants to be a part of that as well. And so I am interested in seeing where that goes, as far as having a hub for us to test. But we're also thinking about having our Panama place that we're kind of working towards be a hub for local food systems and just regenerative systems together. So lots of cool things to unpack there. Love to discuss about them if it comes up more in our conversation today. But yeah, those are, so guess what I'm really excited about is just, I'm a little overwhelmed by it as well. Just all the different connections that are coming together with the different projects, and just trying to figure out how they all mesh together with other people's work. So that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, so I'm going to pass it over to Russ and just give us an update on what you're doing. Looks like some people hopped off. I'm not sure. Ray might be having issues as well, but we'll see.
Okay, we're down to a small group. Okay, perfect. So, yeah, basically this last couple of weeks we've gone with the business in the UK. Sustainablenetwork.com is our website, and we've gone live with it. So actually, I've had an opportunity to start talking to founders and entrepreneurs in the sustainability space across the world, understanding what their businesses are and their needs. And yeah, I've been jumping here, there, and everywhere with different calls, and it's very interesting to get an insight into different people's worlds wherever they're at, and what their needs are, and what different solutions they're bringing to the table. And yeah, it's fascinating really to do that, and to be able to do it from my little Colombian hut as well, in the middle of the jungle, with the limited internet. It still works. I'm not sure what will happen in the rainy season. We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you, Christina. Yeah, we can see you as well. I can see a picture of you. So basically, yeah, just good to connect with different people, and at the same time understanding what people's needs are, and then understanding what the business can actually help them with sometimes is another point, right? Because yeah, everybody wants money to help their business, but whether investors are willing to, if they want to help that particular business, is going to be another question. So, I had a wonderful chat with, an Indian chap, with amazing ideas. But I was like, truthfully, it's going to be very hard to find investment. And it kind of breaks your heart to say that to people as well. But that's the world we live in. And yeah, anyway, it's all positive. I'll keep passing to someone else. Who's next? Christina, you want to go? Explaining your wins for the
She
week.
might be
So to
having
speak.
troubles with her audio, is what she was saying. Christiana, if you can't hear us, we'll pass it over to Corey while she's working on her audio issues.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm going off the email that you sent me, what I'm supposed to say here. Is that right? This is my brief introduction time?
Yeah. So, and typically with introductions, just share something that you're excited about in your business is kind of how we get started.
Well, I guess at the moment, what I'm most excited about is that it's almost ready to start. My wife and I have been building a house, and we're down to the last, in theory, we're down to the last month. And once the house is built, we can start, what we plan to do is start renting it out and staying there. And what this is going to do is it's going to start moving people through. And as they move through, well, number one, when I stay there, I can stay there and then get a lot more work done. But when I start renting it out, everybody who comes to stay there is going to start getting exposed to everything that I have going on there, all the systems in place, the permaculture, the trees growing, those kind of things. So it right at the moment, it all depends on getting this house built. So we're close. We're very close.
Awesome. So is it like a Airbnb permaculture farm setup that you're kind of creating, or?
Yeah, it started as a bug out house. I wanted a bug out house because I was afraid that the economy was going to crash. Okay, so I started with that. We bought the land, and then as I started studying, well, how do I start growing food? And well, since there's no house, I can't live there. So I have to grow food in a way that will grow when I'm not there. And I discovered the food forest idea. And I discovered all this online. I have to confess, to this day, I've never met I don't know if this is an appropriate name, but permie. I've never met a permie in person. So everything I know about it is what I've studied online. And as I studied that, though, I started thinking, wow, this is great. This is a great idea. This is awesome. I'm going to start doing this. So I started driving out to my property, planting some trees, and coming home. Or sometimes I'd run out of time. I would just take a handful of seeds and throw them. Just be like, I hope they grow. And I'd come back and sure enough, some had grown. So over time, now over 4 years, this has developed. Now I've got trees, starting to give fruit. And it's all happened with me not even being there most of the time. So
Very
it's developing,
cool. Yeah.
It's developing.
Corey, nice to meet you, because we've been on Facebook lots, but now I'm actually getting to have a conversation with you via Zoom.
Yeah, and I owe you a thank you,
doing?
by the way. I want to thank you for that referral you gave me about the swimming pool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Worked out.
Well, we decided to contract with the same guy who's building our house, but thanks to you, I had a backup plan, and that came in handy too, just to know, if I need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy that is building our house convinced us that he could build us a nice pool, so it was just convenient to go with him.
Very cool.
I think we were talking. Corey's building a natural pool basically in Colombia as well, and basically one of my neighbors down in the village, he's Chilean by nationality, and he's done a lot of natural building pools. And I'd asked him before about it, and he made it sound very simple, to be honest. And I was like, and I checked out, my teacher's Jeff Lawton for permaculture. So I went back to one of his, instructionals about, natural swimming pools. And they make it sound very simple. Getting it not to turn green all the time is perhaps the tricky part. I guess it depends how many times you pee in it. Could be one of those things. But if you haven't got kids, then you're probably okay. But there you go. It'll be a lot of fun. And I think here in Colombia, of course, there's lots of critters. So one other guy, he suggested having like a normal swimming pool, and then not using chemicals, of course, but then having it put into another pool which had the gravel, had all the kind of the places where the plants can live, and that snakes and things like that can hide. Rather than being in the swimming pool with you, they're in the kind of the next bit, so that it stays safe, but also stays functional. So I hope that also gives you a few ideas.
Kind of scaring me.
Yeah. Are you in Colombia, Corey?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I live in an apartment in Bogota, and my wife and I bought some land 2 hours almost straight west.
Okay. Well,
So
I might be
that's
moving
what we're
closer
doing
to where you guys are at in Panama, but Colombia's a big place. So, and maybe I'll come and visit sometime. Seems to be I'm meeting more and more people that are living in Colombia. A lot of them are expats too. So there's a lot of expats that I know in Panama. Christiana, let's have it go over to you now that your audio is working. Glad to hear that we got it figured out. Tell us what's exciting in your work right now with the people of I'm forgetting the town.
The Meraki people.
Meraki, that's right.
Well, first of all, I do have one person in Colombia that I am working with, so maybe we can do the junction or the connection there. I am presently not in Greece. I am presently in Holland, in Amsterdam. And the reason why I am here is because I would like to come in contact with the universities for agriculture and for taking measurements for natural capital, which is the contribution of nature into the national economies. So if you click in your Google natural capital, you will see that in United Nations, the way that we measure, the nations now measure the GNP has changed. The international accounting standards are changed. And leaders in this change were the Dutch people at the Winingen University. And I am talking with the people that they were doing the measurements. So that's what I am in Holland for. And those are my news.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear that you're getting engaged with the universities and the research there. I think we so need to move away from and it is a measure that we can track, the GDP, but it's not the only measure that should be tracked when it comes to understanding how productive we are in a sense, right? Ray, I think you're the last one. We seem to all have computer troubles today, like three of us. So that's kind of funny. So good to have you back.
Thanks. Yeah, just as soon as I started Zoom, I couldn't click anywhere, and it took over. I don't know. It was laggy. So it seems to be okay now after I've rested. I think what am I excited about? I am working on a lot of projects, podcasts, collaboration with universities here in Australia. I'm from Australia, for those who don't know, I run a company called Farming Secrets Media Group, and we have recently just launched our Soil Learning Center, and we are fine-tuning that to be a hub for education and community. So yeah, it's been pretty busy. Yes, but I think the podcast has definitely been something that is really exciting me. I after doing many interviews, I realized that it's a task that energizes me rather than drains my energy. So I get off a podcast and just feel so empowered about hearing some of the stories that people are working on and talking about soils. And so everyone's, enjoying the flow of the podcast. I'm getting really good feedback, and I'll be launching it in the first week of August. So yeah, it's called Secrets of the Soil, and it's basically a podcast that's going to give our soils a voice. And my signature question is asking our guests to embody the soil and become the soil. And if they were the soil, what would they say to us on the planet? And we have a lot of fun with that question. So yeah, it's been really good. And I'm starting to get connections with like the Savory Institute and like Kiss the Ground and get some key people of influence in there. So yeah, so it's good. And I don't know if I'm popcorning back to you, Josh.
No, yeah, it's back to me. We'll so we're kind of going to move into the second kind of phase of this. I've been forgetting to ask about events in our world right now and upcoming things. But yeah, we'll spend just a moment here. Let's talk about upcoming events that we either have within our businesses or we're going to be attending and maybe want to invite others to. Tomorrow, we have Regeneration Pollination, which is a networking group. Here, I'll put the link to the website for Regeneration Pollination. We're actually getting more and more official, like every single week or every couple of weeks. So we seem to be turning this into, our hope is to turn it into something larger than like a green drinks and make it more international and cross-pollinate those that are doing regenerative work. So if I believe everybody, Corey, have you been on there before, Regeneration Pollination, or found that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So it's a networking event. It's a networking event essentially for regenerative folks. And so I think everybody else here has been to it one time or another. But next week we try to cross-pollinate between different time zones and tomorrow, I shouldn't say next week. Tomorrow is the time zone for the Americas and Europe. And so we get a lot of people from the Americas and Europe kind of cross-pollinating in our regenerative work and philosophies and whatnot. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, so I just put it's like a green drinks. If you've ever heard of green drinks, which is kind of a local, they have local chapters all over the world actually, that is just networking for like the green industry. Well, this is like an international networking for those in the regenerative world. And so, yeah, we do it online and through Zoom, and you can join. I put a link in the chat. You can check that out. So it's tomorrow at 11 a.m. my time. So it's 10 a.m. Pacific, and I'm in Mountain Time. So it's 11 at my time. If you can make it, I know. Like Christiana, you're stayed up late to do this, but I think it works out for you to be there tomorrow. Late.
I have it in my agenda. I will be there. Yes.
Great.
And it is quite late, but I think that any regenerative meetings, for me that I am just starting, is a very valuable. It's of wealth to me. So, for example, I just met Ray, right? I did not know that he existed, so it is extremely important for my work. So I'm very appreciative.
Wonderful. Yeah, so we'll have that tomorrow. is there any other events that are going on right now that's you want to share with this group today?
I've got some in August coming up, but I think maybe next week I'll talk about them. But I think a lot of the events that we run for Australian audience, it's a bit difficult for the US. So for instance, the pollination one tomorrow is at my 3 a.m. So, but what I like is the next fortnight will be a 7 p.m. on my Friday. So that'll be good. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I've got a couple of events coming up, but they're all virtual ones. And so people can catch the replays. So we've got, is everyone familiar with the What 3 Word app, where you can identify your location down to a 3 square meter? So it's kind of like a new global GPS system, but instead of having to memorize like really complicated numbers that make no sense, this gives you like 3 words. It'll be like banana, orange, and invitation. And those 3 words on a map will pinpoint your location. And the Australian Emergency Services have just rolled it out into their app. And so we're trying to educate farmers to become familiar with their 3 words to like their farm gate, or building habits to like name their paddocks their What 3 words. So if in the event of an emergency, they don't have to like even be on the internet to get their What 3 words, and things like that. So, you know, obviously investing in farm safety and things like that. So that's in August. If anyone's interested in farm safety, I think that's kind of cool. And then we're also collaborating with Matt Powers at the moment. He's doing a course around regenerating soils, and he's got a book, and he's a very bundle of joy. And we did a webinar the other day with him, which was actually a live podcast recording. And so that was fun. And so he's kicking that off in like 3 days, actually. And I think the entry point for the course at $500 US is quite good. And he's just got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to soil and the way that it functions. And it's a 16-week course with live events as well. So I'll pop those 2 links in the chat. And if anyone's interested to attend or circulate across your networks, feel free to.
That'd be great. Yeah. And share the What 3 Word as well, if you could. I've played around with that a couple times as well. I think it's a good way to go about identifying the different plots of land and being able to recognize it. Okay, cool. So any other events? If not, we'll kind of move into the mastermind and think tank discussion. Okay. All right. So Corey, since you're kind of new to this space, just kind of give you a breakdown of this part of the discussion. We are going to be a little vulnerable, share our challenges that we're having within our business or projects that we're working on, and we're going to work through them together, help each other get resources, connections, those types of things, and share kind of a support network here. So I'll leave it up into the floor, and we'll kind of get started with that portion. Any challenges or things that have come up that we could talk about your specific project?
I'll put one out.
Awesome. Let's hear it.
Okay, so I've been here 5 years and in Colombia, and for the first 3 years I taught permaculture face-to-face, right? And then pandemic hits and there's nobody visiting my farm, so I'm not able to teach face-to-face. So I took the course, and it's not a PDC. It's like basically it's like a long introduction, 6 hours basically. All the best parts of a PDC for people who know nothing about permaculture but just want to, learn all the cool stuff. So I put it onto an online course. Now, of course, I don't have a name or a following like Matt Powers, Jeff Lawton, whoever, right? So then you have to get into the whole marketing and sales, game to, build yourself up. Anyway, so I've done a bit of that and spent quite a lot of time, chasing that down with really no success, to be honest, when it comes to just selling a course, via Facebook or whatever like that. The only time I had success was when I did the live event. You know, when I did the summit, that worked really well. You know, I did manage to get like 40 sales from people coming, and you know, that was truthfully, it was a lot of work for me being by myself to organize that event, but it was a lot of fun and it was successful, and I will do it again at some stage. But maybe it's a once a year kind of thing, but it's not really sustainable to keep doing events like that, you know, from where I am. And so somebody said recently, what you need to do is you need to position yourself like the birds that clean the teeth of the crocodile, right? They're always wanted and needed. You just got to find yourself a crocodile. And I was thinking, you know, maybe like seed companies, right? You know, people go and buy seeds online. You know, maybe they'll need a permaculture course as well. It could be it adds value to the customer experience of a seed company, like a kind of a good JV. So, you know, I've been contacting the seed companies. My experience of sending a cold email is you get a cold response. You know, and I've been finding that on several businesses. Just sending emails, people just don't seem to care. It's just another email. So, you know, I guess you need sort of personal, you know, it's like, you know, who you know and all the rest of it. So that's my problem, in a sense of, you know, moving my course. And I wondered if anybody had any ideas or any connections that could be useful.
I'm happy to speak to this, Russ. I don't know if like you've been following what we do, and my background is in online course creation, and the reason I discovered Farming Secrets was because they went to sign up for a course that taught people how to do courses, and that's where we linked up and connected. And I said, well, I don't want to just show people how to do courses. I want to help people do courses that change the world and save it at the same time. And so Farming Secrets business model was always about capturing people's lives and putting it onto DVDs and selling DVD programs. And it's only been the last 3 to 4 years where we've kind of digitalized that. So I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time hearing this, but I'm happy to connect and do a Zoom separately and talk to you about some of the frameworks. But my biggest, like what you were saying then, this is exactly why Farming Secrets Media Group exists, because it's like we want to be that glue between your talent, your knowledge, and then not you having to worry about the selling and distribution of it. Because there's people who are launching courses now, putting them on Udemy and other platforms. It's become very noisy. So people get choice. It's like you go on Udemy and look at permaculture, there's hundreds for $5, $15, $20. And people go, well, I don't know what the difference is. I'm a big believer that people buy people, not products. So your return on effort and investment should be about building your keep your influence. So there's a couple of resources you can look at. Like some of the books that came to my mind were like Vaynerchuk, Jab 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 Right Hook. That's a pretty good book about like you kind of give content and then ask. So rather than the whole cold email, and like the crazy analogy is like you wouldn't ask someone to marry you on the first date, you know. And so sometimes in marketing, that's what we do. We say, hey, we just met, would you like to get married? Come and buy my course. You know, and it's the same kind of craziness. And if we wouldn't do that on a first date, then we shouldn't do that in marketing. But it's so much easier to just send a cold email and cross your fingers and pray that someone buys something. It also comes with a bit of a scarcity attachment when you do things like that, or when everyone does things like that. So Jab 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 Right Hook is a quite good book. Oh wow, that rhymed a lot. And yeah, I think just working on your own personal brand and putting that as your investment, and then people will say, well, how do I work with you more, Russ? And it's like, oh, excellent. I've actually got a course where you can hang out with me virtually. So just those are the two things that come to mind when you were chatting. And this is exactly what happens. People build a course, they set it up, they have all the technology working, and then they're selling a secret. And it's hard, you know, because you put your sweat equity into it, and the crickets. And this is a very common thing with course creators, and is basically what we focused on in the previous business, is how do you actually build the course with people, not for them, and start that tribe-like culture from day one before you even publish your first module. And the good thing is that you've already got a course, and I'd be happy to talk to you about collaborating and becoming a bit of a distribution partner through our Soil Learning Centre, because that's exactly what we are setting that up to do. Is we want to be the gatekeeper and the curator of good content and pop that into the Soil Learning Centre and create learning experiences for your students, but other students around the world, where they can just keep digging deeper into the wonderful world of soil. And then you get an affiliate kickback, not on just your products, but on other products that people buy as well. So happy to keep chatting. Those were the things that came to mind as you were articulating your challenge.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Sounds good. Let's set up a call.
Yeah, and Russ, a couple other, I think I haven't read Jab Jab Right Hook, but I've listened to quite a bit of Gary V's stuff, and it kind of aligns with the things that I've been going over in my head and have been working through. And a couple books that really impacted me on this kind of the same topic is the two by Daniel Priestley. I believe that's the author. I'm trying to look for it in my library here, but what is the name of it? Key Person of Influence is one of them, and then the other one is
They change brand to Dent. Is it the Dent group that you're thinking about?
Oversubscribed. No. Is it?
Okay.
No, it's
because Key People of Influence changed to Dent at one point. Anyway.
Okay, could be. It could be the same book that we're talking about here, but yeah, Daniel Priestley, I think, is the author, and so it's Key Person of Influence, and then the other one is Oversubscribed. And really, Oversubscribed, kind of wanted to mention this concept because I think you really are working towards building out your own brand, Russ. I do, especially after you did that big event a little while ago. I was bumping into people that had heard about you, but heard about the event, and so I think you're building out that brand. I don't think you should really stop that, right? But it does take so much time, right? And Ray and I have talked about this quite a bit. Like, it was kind of funny because Ray and Farming Secrets, you've kind of told me that you guys kind of found the big crocs for a while, and then almost stifled your own personal brand in doing that. And people were thinking of the big people and not of Farming Secrets, right? And so now Farming Secrets is starting to build up their brand, and I think they've been doing a wonderful job. Regen Ray and all of these other things that you're doing.
It's more Regen Ray that I'm working on, because that's the transferable asset. You know, you want to be memorable, and people will always remember how you make them feel. So I want people to hang out with Regen Ray and my inner circle. And Farming Secrets is just another brand that people are brand fatigued, you know what I mean? So that's why I built Regen Ray, is so that that personal brand is more transfer. It doesn't matter what you do in 20 years time, you could still be Regen Ray. It doesn't matter who you're working with, which group, which tribe, where you move. So personal branding is by far a huge asset that you can invest in.
And yeah, I think both personal brand, and you're a big personal brand advocate, Ray, and I think it's great to do that. But I also think what you're doing with Regeneration Nation is also, that's a good brand that you can keep on building and working with as well. But as you build out that brand, looking at ways that you can build in an oversubscribed model into the brand, so you don't have to have a ton of people essentially to be oversubscribed, right? You can have if you have your model set up to where you have a certain key. If you're trying to shoot for everybody and trying to shoot for like the masses, you probably have to have quite a few people to fill that oversubscribe. But if you set up the model to be maybe you go for some higher end clients and have an oversubscribed offering when you're at like 7 clients, and really you can only take on 5 because of the package that you've built out, right? Or if you're going to go that larger amounts, figuring out the numbers that it's looking like I have a program that we can get 200 people and really you know how much marketing time it's going to create to make that 200 people last and essentially get you that feeling. But that oversubscribed model actually starts to build that little bit of scarcity that makes people feel like there is and it's kind of the psychology of it, but a urgency of being a part of. It's like the fear of missing out type of scenario. And so that I really liked how oversubscribed the book kind of walks into that, and starting to the other book that kind of goes along with it, key person of influence, I think it's called, kind of talks about setting yourself up as that brand and being an influencer in the space so that you can be an oversubscribed or run an oversubscribed model. Yeah, so just a couple of things there that I wanted to share. Corey or Christiana, have anything to talk about on this challenge?
Anything I have to say is pretty much a guess, and I feel like I should just not say anything. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, great insight in just knowing that, right? And being able to allow the space there. Russ, do you have anything else that you want to place in there?
No, I think that's fair comments what everybody said, and the idea of a personal brand, it's I mean, for sure, that's if you think about people, we're talking about them rather than an organization. Who did I say? I did Matt Powers, Jeff. I didn't say anything else. I just said their names, so they're personal brands, right? Whereas I took one a bit bigger, Generation Regeneration, the idea that it was something bigger than me, because it is, my point was that I can't do it alone. We've got to do it together. It's collaboration, cooperation, all these co-words. So I kind of, I put it out there to be something bigger than me. And I will do it again, because I believe in that brand. At the same time, I'm doing another business, and it's difficult to do everything, right? I'm doing several things. I'm running a farm. I'm the only person here. If people start turning up again, then that'll be another headache in a sense. I'm going to have to manage people again rather than just having to manage myself. So it'll be a bit of a juggling thing. So yeah, there's lots of things going on there, and even finding times to read books. I'll read this book, read that book. You know how many books I'm supposed to read. Finding time to do everything is difficult, isn't it? But I totally get the idea of collaboration, and I've already tried to I have already linked with other people in their networks. The idea that you put something out there. Here's the other thing with it's not. I don't think it's imposter syndrome, but at some stage or another, you think with something like permaculture, okay, so if you do a PDC with someone like Jeff Lorden, you're paying about $1,300, something like that, and so you think, well, oversubscribe something at 6 people, is there a lot of value I can give these people that you can charge the big bucks, so to speak? Is it better to have a model where you just say, pay me what you think it's worth? And that's another sort of question, say, because when you put the price of things out there on courses, like Ray was saying, you go to Udemy, you see a bunch of $10 courses. Okay, so is that the value of permaculture? You do an online course with Jeff and you pay $1,300. I've done that and I know the value. So where does an online course creator put their price? And so many people say to me, yeah, there's a bunch of people at $20, there's a bunch of people at $47. But really, if you actually increase your price, suddenly you give yourself value, and people actually will buy it because they perceive there's value there. And then there's the whole psychology of pain points, emotional pain points. People don't buy what they need, people buy what they want. And so I've been really getting into that whole, marketing element, which is applicable to any business. So when I'm dealing with other people in other business sectors, I'm able to then transfer it to them as well and say, actually, yeah, you want money, but you're also going to need help on your marketing, because at the moment, this is out of sync, and I can help you do that, which is going to give value, back to them from our company. So I do love the whole world of marketing right now. I've fallen in love with it, and I see a lot of value because we're in this point of time where people are they're fed up with greenwashing, but at the same time, I do wonder whether we all this money that's being spent by these huge companies to greenwash their stuff, actually in a way they're training their clients to want to be green. So eventually it kind of goes back against them, and they say, hey, you said you were doing this, and you must want this, but you're not delivering, so now we're going to boycott you until you deliver. So it's just another mindset thing, but I'm losing the trend a little bit, but so that's what I wanted to say. I'll pass on to you, whoever's next. It's going dark. I'm going to go picture.
Yeah, Russ, I love the way you explained it there, and I do agree with you in the terms of what the consumer these days are actually faced with all of this information, and they can obtain so much information as well. They get to determine really and do the research, and Google did this really fascinating study that was actually kind of a round two of this marketing study, and I forget the name of it. I'll have to think of the name of the study. But basically what I was saying, the original study was done way back in the era of everything needing to be packaged and in front of people, and it was the first. They called it the first. Oh, now I'm going to have to go and look at the study. The first point of the consumer actually seeing the product, right, and how the packaging looked, and they ran a bunch of studies of like visual and all of these different things that were needed in order for someone on the first impression of a product, what they would do and how they would interact with it on the first impression. And so they did this big study. I got to figure out the dates on when they did it, but it was before the internet, obviously, and all of these other things. But now Google kind of did this next study, and they called it somewhere in the lines of the point zero, right? Before they even see the product, what do people do these days? They have the internet, they have ways of looking at reviews and doing all of these different investigative pieces. So when they have a problem, they actually don't even know what product they're wanting at this moment, but they go out and they do the research, and they figure it out. So even before they see a product, they have knowledge and understanding. And what that's done for marketing, it's really built marketing in an inbound way, where people are actually looking to figure out and be for their brands to be visible and well understood. And if there's not enough information there, then they can't actually make a decision, or it's harder for them to make a decision, or they'll make a decision on the brand that has been open and more vulnerable in sharing and creating a narrative there. So I think that goes along with what you were saying, Russ, of like, let's allow for our brands to be visible enough and those that get it wrong these days, that are greenwashing, they're going to see a significant decrease, because someone's going to find out, and then it's going to spread, and you're going to see the reviews, and you're going to see people writing and sharing content about the greenwashing that's happening. And it seems like we've kind of gone different ways, and I'm not sure that we're answering the original challenge that you had, Russ. But we kind of did speak on it. I'm building a personal brand and building a platform for yourself. We can linger here again on this challenge if we have more to say here, or we can also stop and start a new challenge. Someone opened up for a new challenge that they're having here as well.
Can I go?
Yeah, you're more than welcome, Corey. Let's hear it.
All right. It's my first time here, so I don't want to be like all barging in, you know.
No, we want the first timers to do that, right? We want them to speak up. Everybody else has had their chance to speak up.
Okay. Well, the challenge that comes to mind for me is at the moment finding plants, finding the right plants. I watch a lot of videos, and there's a lot of times I'll watch a video and the people will be like, oh, we're going to go on a tour of this permaculture food forest in Costa Rica, for example. And they'll be walking along and they'll be going, oh yeah, look at this food. And look at this one, look at this one. It's all stuff I've never heard of before. And I'm watching this video thinking, where do I get that? I don't know how to get that. And even if I do get it, I don't know if it's going to grow where I'm at. And then I don't know how to take care of it. And I just don't know how to companion plant it right. I don't know, all these things. And it kind of just boils down. My question here, my challenge is finding this variety of plants that I should be growing. And at the moment, what I'm doing, I started just by reproducing the trees that were already on the property. The next thing I did was I would go to the fruit market and buy a bunch of fruit and just save the seeds. And I've had some success with that. And what I would ultimately like to do is have a very diverse, crazy diverse assortment of different food, exotic food, crazy weird stuff no one's ever heard of, most people haven't heard of. I would like to have that. I just don't know how to get it all. So how do I get it all? How do I get moringa, and how do I get katuk, and how do I get I forgot the name of it. It's some Brazilian fruit where the little like kind of purple berries grow right along the trunk. I forget what it's called, javacoba or something like that.
Sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
You can get a lot of it on. You can. So to answer your question, some of it is you can get on Mercado Libre. So that's like that's the national website for getting stuff like eBay, right? So Mercado Libre.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good one for getting seeds delivered. But basically, Colombia is anti-seeds, right? You're not supposed to bring seeds in, and you're not supposed to sell seeds. Organic seeds are illegal. That's the law. Now the reality is that you can do what you want, as like most things in Colombia. And the best advice I can give you is go to your neighbors. Right? I do the same. It's if I start watching permaculture videos about this and that, it's frustrating because for all the same reasons you just said, right? You're like, everybody's saying this and that, and does it work here? So the best thing I can say is go and find your neighbors or people who are in the same, you're in Bogota, right? So you're a different climate to me. I could send you stuff, but it probably wouldn't grow there necessarily. But for sure, and I know for sure, there are permaculture projects in Bogota and around, and they will be the people I recommend that you just, hook up with. Even I don't know how good your Spanish is, but I know for sure some of them are English speakers. So even if it's not possible to speak in Spanish, you won't have a problem. So that would be my recommendation for seeds: is go and find local people who are growing stuff where you are, and it's a good way of increasing your network and getting the seeds, getting information about how to overcome local pest problems, how to improve the soil. There's going to be lots of benefits from getting local connections. And you can go onto the Facebook groups for Permaculture Colombia. I think there's 3 or 4 of them, and the people on there are not super active. But when I went to Bogota, I just put on there, hey, I'm in Bogota, and I had anybody put me up for the night. And I had like 5-6 people straight away was saying, yeah, come. This is like obviously before COVID, but come and stay with us. So I think there's plenty of people in Bogota in the permaculture world who would be more than willing to help and share seeds with you. That'd be my best recommendation. I'll pass it on.
That's awesome. How do I find them? Where do I find that group or groups?
I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link. Just when you go into Facebook groups, and at the top it just says like search for groups. Just put in Permaculture Colombia. I'm pretty sure that's their names.
Okay.
There's at least 3 that I can think of. If you don't find them, I'll send you the links.
Awesome. That'll be very helpful, I think.
I just want to add. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Christiana, and then Ray.
Okay, I am not as learned scholar as you are, all of you. However, I do know of one lady here in my country that she has the keys to the seed bank of the country. And I know I have her name in the chat room, and she also she's also the key coordinator for botanical gardens. Now, if you hit a person like this, you can always ask them, I'm doing a food forest and I need very few seeds. Would you be able to either send them to me or guide me as to where can I find them? Maybe she cannot give them to you, but I am 100% sure that she can guide you to where you can find them. So this is important, okay? She also has in her lab the possibility of reproducing from, let's say, 5 seeds, 50,000 seeds. She has the process of doing that without, they have a protocol for reproducing seeds so they can make them the same quality for industrial production, but without genetically modifying them. Okay, I need to be very clear with that. So maybe you would like to reach out and talk to her, and if she cannot give it to you, she can, I am very sure that she can give you the information where can you go or what are your next steps.
Awesome. And is this what you just emailed us, or this shared in the chat room is her link, Dr. Eleni
Malupa, yes.
Malupa.
Yeah, she is the national coordinator for the seeds in our country. And she has also created a botanical garden, amazing work. But again, she's also European coordinator for botanical gardens. So, these people do have access to seeds. I don't know how much she's willing to share with you, but I am sure of course, you can mention my name. I'm Cristiana Gardicchiotti, if you do not know me. Just tell her that we are in the regenerative type of, she's following my project and my effort quite closely, and she's very friendly towards me. So I'm not sending you to enemy ground.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome, yeah.
And there's Christiana's LinkedIn, so you can connect with her there as well. Go ahead, Ray. You had
Yeah, I was just going to add, this is probably, I can't help with the where to go in directly because I'm not familiar, but just for Russ and Corey, a common thing that I'm hearing here, and I'd have to stop and think about this as well. Sometimes we don't need to ask how to do something, we need to ask who. And I think what Christiana just shared is the whole who principle. And I think Russ before as well is like, how do you sell a cause? Or it's who can help me sell the cause? And I think Dan Sullivan teaches this in some of his books. And there's a whole book like don't ask how, ask who, or ask how, not who, whatever it is. And so I think, you know, being in rooms like this and asking who can help me because this is my vision and I want it to come to alive. What just happened there between Corey and Christiana is a perfect example of who can help you. And even if it's not that seed bank, I'm sure that person is going to be connected with a million people who could help you. But seed banks are also motivated to keeping their seeds fresh and alive. So some of them have like, you know, seeds last for a long time, but they might be motivated to say, look, here's a packet. We want to refresh these into local bioregions. And so as long as you take and then give back to the seed bank, they'll be totally happy with that as well, because they know that seeds have, you know, optimal shelf life. And sometimes they're motivated to integrate into systems. You know, one seed could then produce 10,000 seeds. So it's in their interest to actually give and then take back. And so those partnerships are quite good too.
And don't forget, she might be dying for one seed that is in your region, and because she's botanical gardens, right? So she may just want something that you have next door, and of course you're gonna tell her, well, if I'm going to send you 2 seeds, I want the XYZ seed to be sent to me. So there is, of course. Okay, and that's also a very good idea for starting a conversation or starting an informal group. And people that they are into botanical gardens, they are absolutely interested about preserving and finding very unique type of seeds and plants and doing exchanges.
And there's so many studies now to show that the seeds have like a DNA of the bioregion. And so like what Russ said before, him sending you seeds from his bioregion might not germinate the seed. And so years and years of seeds regerminating in a particular bioregion, it gets like a memory. And so these seed banks are really interested in micro regions and being able to collect not just one particular seed, but from multiple different bioregions. So you could help inoculate a new bioregion as well of these particular seeds. They won't take it the first year. I think it's like 3 or 4 seed generations that then creates more of an ID of that bioregion. And so there's so much research about this whole linear, and this is where heirloom seeds comes from, you know, having that DNA from ancestors ago that are clean and pure, genetically modified. And so nature has its own way of kind of like through natural selection, making the seeds more resilient to your soils, to your biodiversity and to your bioregions. So there are a lot of projects motivated to give seeds out, to train those seeds in different bioregions and then give them back to the seed bank. So I feel like you're going to get seeds once you put this intention out there. And food forests, syntropic farming, companion planting, it's all really exciting stuff, and it can be overwhelming. But you know, I've seen a lot of people, once they get to like seed abundance, they just throw seed bombs around. I don't know if you've explored seed bombing, but
Yes.
just throwing seeds everywhere and just let nature pick what it grows where. You know, there's no planning, there's no like this plant is going to be here and this plant's going to be here. Just throw seed bombs and the birds and nature will germinate a food forest exactly the way nature wants it to be. I think there's something magical about that.
Yes, by the way, comes September, we have gone to our local government and have secured 1,000 square meters to be our first food forest, and we are doing seed bombs with a Fukuoka method. So I am trying to grow the first food forest in the region based on the seed bombs.
Where is this?
Where is my place?
Where is this food forest going to be?
It's going to be in Mount Parnonas, Arcadia, southern Greece or Peloponnese region.
Ah,
It was so cool that you brought up seed bombs, Ray, because I knew that Christiana was. I don't know if you knew as well, but maybe. Okay, so
I did not
that is.
know. I just love the whole thing of let nature be nature and let humans move away and just be an observer. You know, I feel like nature has the ability to build resilience. And if you watch the documentary on Netflix with Attenborough, you know, he takes you to Chernobyl and shows you how nature takes over a toxic site. Humans can't go there, but nature can, and it slowly heals itself if we just trust in nature. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
that's funny. With
Want
my
to add to
property,
that, right?
So,
Sorry, over talking. So I just one very quick point. I don't know if you've read the book Anastasia, the Rigging Cedars, and in this book, you know, it's a series of books. So basically, it's like kind of, I don't know if it's supposedly real, but maybe it's not. Who knows? Anyway, the point is, in one of the books, she says that to actually put a seed that you're going to grow in your garden into your mouth for, I think, 8 or 9 minutes. You don't have to put all the seeds in your mouth, right? But you know, 1 or 2. And basically, the idea that you're going to, you know, get your DNA into that seed, you know, a bit like Ray was suggesting when it becomes adapted to the bioregion, but actually it becomes adapted to you. And so the plant or fruit grows. It's more like your medicine, right? It's the idea. There's a link that isn't there isn't rational sense to what I'm saying. Is a kind of, you know, a spiritual link, I guess. You're not going to find it in a permaculture book, but the idea is that, you know, the seed in your mouth gets your DNA, and it actually will grow, knowing what you need, and so it will produce that, you know, like your own medicine. Just throwing it out there since we're having this conversation. I'll let you go on, carry on.
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's way cool. I put a couple links. One was for Corey, and then one is kind of going back in our discussion a bit. But Corey, there's a really active group on Facebook that's just on heirloom seeds, but it's all about seed saving. And what I've started to find just in my local area, it's really about the network and being able to connect with people. So just basically kind of mirroring what others have said, but not only are you going to be able to find and curate the right seeds, the right plants for your area, but you're going to learn how to grow those with that network as well. And so getting in touch with that network, I think, is going to be key for sure. And it really is all about, it's a great example. Seed saving and seed banks and those types of things is a great example of networking for a cause and for something that's really meaningful, and people get really passionate about this. So I think it's going to be pretty easy once you dive into it, and it's a learning process. And this is what I'm curious about, is us being able for you to come back, Corey, and say, you know, I'm learning, you know, with this challenge, I learned this, and this, and I know a lot of people that will get really crazy into their seed banks and curating seeds and having their seed banks and sharing seed banks to kind of see that learning curve and how you've kind of learned through that process would be cool to share as you go through this process. So please come back and share more. And then the other link that I shared, I just remembered the name of the study. It's called Zero Moment of Truth for the marketing side of things. And the first study that I was mentioning was called The First Moment of Truth. So they did this big study. They had lots and lots of brands take part in it, and big brands and small brands and all sorts of sizes on this first moment of truth. And they did this study and found these findings. And then several years after the internet was well established and we were selling in that, we then started, they did this study. Google helped to do the study of the zero moment of truth and paid for this big study to figure out what it means to have an understanding of, like, I'm going to purchase something even before I've actually seen the product, right? And really understand it and and have an opinion about something before you've even used it. And that goes product and or service. So I shared a couple links there, and now I kind of put us off on a different side tangent. But I love where we're at right now. We can linger here. We have enough time for another one if we another challenge in someone's business, or we can linger in either of the two that we've already dove into.
I just need to excuse myself. It's getting very, very late. It's 2 a.m. in here. I hope that you do understand. And I'm running an 8:30 Zoom meeting tomorrow morning. So I am just going to have to say good night. It was delightful to have met you. I hope that I see you the next time, and I would like to be excused.
Have a wonderful evening. Get some sleep. It's always great to have you, Christiana. Thanks for hopping on. I know you're dedicated more than a lot of us to be up at this hour.
Thank you very much. Good night. Nice to have met everyone. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you.
Nice.
I always love having Christiana on the calls, and she comes consistently, almost, right? At least once a month, I have her on this call. So it's really good to kind of hear her update and get a sense of what she's doing. Okay, so we can let's take a kind of vote. Do you want to linger here? Do we want to do one more challenge that someone has? What do you guys think? Corey, do you feel complete with this, the answers that you've kind of given?
Yeah, actually, I'm excited to track down these links right now. So I have enough to keep me busy for a week at least.
Yeah, and do you know how to
Yeah.
save the chat on
No,
Zoom?
no, I was actually afraid I had better open these now before you.
So
open
if
it
you
in.
go there and at the bottom in your chat where you see the chat box, on the top right hand corner of the chat, there's those 3 dots,
I see it. Yeah.
and then save chat
Save
right
chat.
there.
Where does it save to?
It should save to your Zoom folder unless you've dedicated another file location for recordings and those types of things. So
Okay.
you'll have a Zoom folder in your documents. And so if you go in your Drive documents, Zoom already has a file folder system that it saves to. So if you haven't dedicated, it'll go documents, Zoom, and then they'll have a file structure there.
Okay.
Is where
Thanks.
it'll save. Yeah, no
Unless you're on
problem.
a Mac, then it'll be a bit different.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Windows.
That I just explained it for Windows. So if you're on a Mac, it'll be different. And Ray can maybe explain that one for you.
You want a Mac?
I do have a Mac. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you click those 3 dots and click Save Chat, it will pop up a little box that says Chat Saved, and then it says Show in Finder. And if you click that Show in Finder, it will take you directly to where it's saved it.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
It's just like a little ribbon that pops up. Yeah,
Yeah, that was super easy.
gotta love a Mac.
Huh.
Unless
I know
you're
that's
me,
Josh's soft
really
spot.
yeah, I don't like Macs. I just bought my ThinkPad X1
was being cheeky.
Carbon or X1 Yoga. Yeah, he was being a little cheeky there. But I love my Lenovo products and my ThinkPads, so you can't really get me away from them. Yeah.
Can I make another little comment? Just finishing up on my problem there. Everything you guys are saying, like about seed bombs and how you can make a naturally selected food forest. That's kind of happened at my place because I haven't been there so much. Like I'm lucky if I get there 2 days a month, and I've had so many neighbors, so many guys, and like let's call them service providers, approach me about cutting my grass. And they kind of spread this, they try to get me afraid. They come in and say, you know, if you don't cut this, you're going to get animals. So what they want me to do is hire them to go in there with a weed whacker and kill everything, mow it all down. And when we bought the place, it had been completely stripped of plants. Like, I don't know, they must have done it with a bulldozer or something, because it was just dirt. And after a couple of months, I go out there and I see these big ruts being formed by water erosion. And so that, cued me off. I need some plants to stop that erosion. So I'm not going to cut anything. I need every plant I can get to start putting some roots in. And so I basically said, no, we're not cutting anything. And they'd be like, okay, but you're going to get animals. So I'd be like, I don't care. I mean, I wouldn't say it to them, but I think that I don't care. I'm not afraid of, well, what kind of animals are we talking about here? Who cares, And, I'm from a place where we have bears and wolves. So they don't have that here. And I thought, so what's the big threat? Am I going to get a snake? Well, maybe. Not really that worried about that, Anyway, the point is, after 4 years of not cutting the grass, I started discovering trees that have grown. Some on their own, and some as a result of me just throwing handfuls of them, seed bombing my own place, and it's worked. I mean, not only from not cutting, by not cutting, we didn't cut them down by accident. They're so small, they'd be so small amongst the weeds that if I had hired them to cut, they would have cut them all down. And the second is nobody's out there walking, so no one's stepped on them. And it's worked. I mean, I guess it's not the most efficient way to raise a fruit forest, but for only being there 2 days a month, I'm really happy with the results I've had so far. So yeah, and I know that all these seeds are strong. I mean, all the plants that I have now are strong because I haven't been there babying them. I haven't been there to water them or fertilize them, and so then they've survived. So yeah, that's kind of all been happening on my own property, is surprises and learning experiences, and I'm super happy.
Corey, you should be, and I really encourage you to document this. Like, get your camera out, turn it sideways so it's landscape, and just record it and put it somewhere, because more people need to hear exactly what you just said. And Peter Andrews here in Australia talks about using plants to slow the flow. I don't know if you're familiar with Peter Andrews and his works. He's really studied the Australian landscape and said that, we've basically turned our landscape into a desert. And if we, one of his principles is slow the flow. And I'll bring up his link in a minute. He's got these kind of rhyming words with his 5 principles. But what you just said there about, like, he talks about with water flow, and he's about hydrating our landscapes. And he talks about, our riverbeds are deep because man said that we need to put water in reservoirs so we can have drinking water. But back in the day, the rivers were very wide. And this is where a lot of flooding's coming from now, is because we built communities and hoped that our deep channels and our pipes would work. And that's not how water's meant to flow. Water's meant to flow wide. So by you keeping those plants there and, slowing the flow down, the water is being able to trickle wider and into your property rather than just down this narrow channel and getting it to some reservoir, because the fear is that, we're going to run out of water. So that, and also, the mindset between weeds and seeing weeds as like actual plants, and everything that happens above the ground is trying to tell us what's actually happening below the ground. So I've kind of changed my paradigm doing some holistic management courses and so forth to see weeds as repair plants. They're actually telling us, they're sending a signal and saying, I'm growing here because I need more nitrogen or I need more potassium. And that plant is actually going to give that soil what it needs. And then what happens is the soil balances itself to the minerals, and then a seed that's been sitting there for 300 years germinates, because the soil profile is exactly what that seed needed for it to germinate. And so, like, when you start understanding the functionality of soil and how nature works so beautifully with its, symbiotic connection to everything, protecting that soil, the sun's not baking it. There's just so many principles that you've hit on by abandoning, like, you're such a bad person for abandoning your lot, and it's a danger because animals are going to come here. Hang on, animals are part of the biodiversity. Like, we need those animals in there. They're all got a function and a purpose, and, we get scared here in Australia for bushfires. If you let your land go wild, you're going to get burnt. And then what happened recently with the bushfires is all the properties who were regenerative and they were green in summer didn't burn. And people have gone, hang on a minute, you've always told me that if I don't mow and I like cut my grass or, keep it safe for fire, those ones are the ones that actually got burnt out because their soils were dry and there was no hydration in their property. And so everything that you just spoke about then just opened up so many channels of things that I've been seeing happening here in Australia. And everyone wants to see more of the everyday person. I don't mean to like say that, but we want to see people who are hacking their way through this, sharing this information to go, I can do that. Because sometimes when we look at these mentors or these people who have written books and done TED Talks and done all this stuff, they seem too far away from us, you know, and that's the bridge that I'm also trying to work on. Is I'm trying to capture, you know, the struggling farmer, Aussie battler who went regenerative, and 5 years on, they're kind of winning at life, not because they're making more money, but because they're living a more wholesome, connected, rejuvenating life, you know, and they got their life back, not profits in the bank or caught into a market, a commodity market. And so I just encourage you to capture that story on a video somehow and just upload it to YouTube. And even if 3 people watch it, that might be the 3 people in the world that needed to watch it to change their paradigm, you know, and it's those little ripple effects. So yeah, just want to thank you for sharing that story.
Thanks. You actually get me really excited. That's great to hear.
It is exciting. We need more people talking like this. That's why I get excited.
Well, I could talk all day, but well, you know, partly I started getting worried that it's like my neighbors all think I'm crazy, that and this fear they're spreading that I'm going to get animals might get the community against me, you know. So I started kind of getting like worried, like, oh. And then some of them have tried to go around me and talk to my wife, talk her into it, you know, letting them cut everything, you know. And I'm like, geez, I watched those permaculture videos and they told me, you know, to do it this way. And I think this is the right way. But I started feeling like, if somebody gets bit by a snake, everyone's going to blame me. And I think, well, no one's gotten bit yet. So I've never gotten bit. So chances are they're not going to get bit. I'm there 2 days a month. Nobody else is there that much. You know, so all these thoughts go through my mind and I just kind of cross my fingers and hope it works out.
There's the permaculture principle, the first one, right, of observe and interact. And I think as you learn and you observe and interact with your land, you've been doing this for a little while, that you'll get to be able to say to them, you know, this is what it's doing, right? It is bringing animals in here, and they're beneficial because of this reason, and it is bringing biodiversity into the soil and into the land that we have here, and it's slowing the flow, and it's doing all these amazing things. And as Ray was kind of speaking, you know, a lot of people that aren't able to get on their property, and those that even are able to get on their property a lot, they put up game, and this might be a solution for you. Maybe you're already doing it. Put up game cameras on your property at different areas, and you can figure out, maybe you see a hole when you're walking your property and you're like, I want to know what lives here, right? And you can see that it's active or whatever. So you put up a game camera there, and then you find different ways, because you're not able to go there that often. The way that you're able to do that is you put up game cameras and motion sensors and those types of things, and figure out when animals are there, and maybe take a picture on one of your cameras at a certain time of the day, or a few times of the day, to see the growth patterns and the seasonal patterns and those types of things. But I would highly suggest figuring out ways that you can observe and interact, even though you're not able to be there all the time, right? So you can.
I'd love to have that.
Yeah. And it might be a little expensive at first to get those game cameras up, but I mean, that's something that you're going to be able to have for quite some time, and use in a bunch of different ways.
And they hold value as well, so you can always sell them off once you're done with them. And they all connect with the ones that I've seen here in Australia. They all connect through like the 4G network, so they're all like IP cameras, and you know, yeah, there's some really good technology out there for now, like getting monitoring devices out in your fields and your paddocks if you're not close to a Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, don't worry about Colombians. Colombians are paranoid about snakes. They yeah, it's just part of the culture that every Colombian kind of has this fear about snakes, and so they will. You go into most places, you won't see leaves, not because the trees don't shed leaves, because they do, but because they will rake them up and they will burn them almost every day meticulously. You know, that's That's one of the chores that the lady will do of the house, that she will get rid of. Mulching. It's one of the deadly sins, for a Colombian person. They're very anti these kind of things because they're overly paranoid about snakes. There is 300 species of snakes here, something like that, either 200 or 300. There's a lot. So there is some value in what they're saying. But again, I live in a place where there's a bunch of snakes and I've never been bitten either. So, if somebody's on your property, you have to wonder, why are they there if you haven't given them permission? And snakes, in my experience, most of them will go away from you. And there's a few species that are territorial, but they're the unusual ones. Most snakes don't go. They'll hear you stomping around and they'll go in a different direction. So you've got little to worry about. But I do have a stiff neck from walking around with my head down. There is plenty of times if I nearly stepped on a snake. So there is value in always keeping your head down and just looking where you're going to put your next step. So you don't have to, because even if a boa bites you, it's not poisonous, but it's still a bite, and there's bacteria on its teeth, etc. So yeah, it's something to be aware of. Why are people overly concerned? Because there is a real reason, but just to respect things, but not to be overly fearful as they are, is my opinion about Colombian people.
I've learned so much about the Colombian culture right now. Like, it's just so crazy. Breaking up leaves and not letting that matter go into the soil just sounds crazy to me. And it's interesting about the different cultural changes and the beliefs and so forth. So it's been really cool. I encourage you also to know what eats snakes and try and encourage them. It's all about the hierarchy of succession of animals. So a lot of problems, like if you do happen to get a snake problem, they will be fixing something else. So they might be eating rats. So maybe you actually have a rat problem, but then maybe owls eat snakes. So if you start seeing owls on your property, you know that they're going to control the snakes. So this is, where knowing the hierarchy of animals and encouraging the different species that normally take each other out is a good system as well. And so, I think I didn't know about because Australia has some of the deadliest snakes too. And snakes is definitely never the worry here. It's always about fires and floods. Yet the way that we farm is what's causing all the fires and the floods, So it's crazy. Yeah. So succession of animal, encouraging the thing that eats the problem or the pest, and knowing what they're eating, and sometimes the root cause. You might not have a snake problem, you might have a rat problem, and the snakes are there because you've got rats, not weeds.
I've only seen 3 snakes in 5 years, and none of them gave me like any reason to think that they were threatening me. So mostly I think it's these guys trying to scare me so that I'd pay them to cut the grass. That's the feeling I've gotten. So I don't know. Yeah, and I've seen 1 rat. I don't know.
We have it in Montana. We had problems with rattlesnakes, right? Each year I'd kill like maybe 3 or 4 rattlesnakes, and maybe find a rattlesnake nest. And a lot of that was because we had so many field mice, right? That the snake population could feed on, and just realizing that. But that was a real danger, coming out and walking your property and running into rattlesnakes, especially on the roads, because they like the heat from the roads, right? So you'd be walking your trail or your road, and they'd be right next to it or right on top of it, and like, oh my goodness, let's go get a shovel and chop the head off of this one. Yeah, that was always fun. So we are at time pretty much, but as we kind of wrap up here, the way we like to wrap up for these think tank discussions is what you took away with. What's the big thing that you took away from this week that you're going to apply? Maybe it's a couple things, but just in a quick synopsis of our meeting, what are you going to take away with? And I'll start, and then I'll just popcorn it over to Corey after I'm done. So big thing for me in this discussion, I took away really the networking thing kind of stuck with me, and being able to kind of solve problems through people. I know that's come up a lot, and as I'm kind of going through one of the challenges that I was going to bring up, if no one else was going to bring it up, was the challenge of working with people and figuring out how you interconnect your network for those solutions. That could be a tricky thing. And so as I've been kind of listening, the thing that's coming up for me is to be a little bit more organic with those connections, let them flow and become what they need to be. And so I'm trying to give myself space to do that. And the thing that's kind of coming up with me is kind of a combination of what we've been talking about, but the observe and interact of how my network is kind of formalizing and the connections that are there, and just kind of seeing how they can naturally work together is what I'm taking away. I know that sounds a little strange because it's kind of off there, but that's the thing that I've taken away from our discussion. It's kind of a mixture of what we've been talking about, but for my specific needs. So I'm gonna pass it over to Corey. What did you take away today? And then you can popcorn it over to someone else.
Well, the obvious answer is everything everyone said. Helping me with my problem was huge. But what's not obvious is that what I'm taking away is that I've made a decision. I really like this group. So yeah, thanks everybody. You guys really made me feel welcome and gave me good information. So thank you.
Awesome. That's what we're here for. Thanks, Corey. Pass it over to Ray or Russ, Corey.
Well, just looking in the order of pictures in my screen, Russ is next.
Okay. Clear my throat. Yeah, I think it was interesting to listen to Corey's story about what's happening on his property, where it's just been left, and how then Ray kind of explained it so eloquently that with the different conditions in the soil changing, and maybe that 500 year, that dormant seed that's been sitting there for X number of years, suddenly the conditions are just perfect. And it always comes back to me that we don't need to save the planet. People say, save the earth, or whatever it's called. It's not true. We disappear. Whatever conditions we leave it in, it will be fine. It's just that we've got to save the conditions that are suitable for our ability to live on the planet. Is the question. As you said, people can't go to Chernobyl. Maybe the snails and the slugs are a bit bigger than normal. I'm just joking. But the stuff grows there now, and once we're not present, nature knows how to look after itself. So just abandoning things actually works just fine, to a point, right? So I'll give you another example where I've got is a lot of grass, and you think, okay, it used to be a forest. So if you leave it long enough, it will go back to a forest. Well, I'm not sure the time span of you have to leave it long enough. But the thing with grass is that here we've got this actually kind of double what do they call it, climax vegetation state. So one is forest and one is savanna. And so the grass acts like a savanna. So actually it just keeps going. So actually, I have to get in there and disrupt it, take the roots out, put some fungi in there to get it more, looking more like a soil that the trees like. So there's a bit of both. Sometimes we can be active in there as well, and sometimes we have to be if we've removed those tertiary feeders, or those massive megafauna herbivores. They're gone, they're extinct. So actually humans have got to do the job they used to do of disrupting the system to create resilience. That's my take from this week. Thanks, everybody.
Lovely. Oh, that's such a big realization. You know, you're quite right. We always say save the planet, but the planet will save itself. We just need to make it abundant while we're on it, while we're here. And that was a penny drop moment for me, Russ. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I always say maybe we don't have a climate problem, we have a citizen problem, you know, a citizen crisis. You know, it's the way that we're acting, it's the way that we demand on the system that is the problem. Climate will sort itself out, you know, the waters don't care what it's washing away. So yeah, no, I think that's key takeaways for me is, again, like, yeah, being, you know, one of the principles of regenerative is biodiversity. And for me, I've realized that it's about my internal paradigm, and I need to be a regenerative human as much as being a regenerative farmer or regenerative educator. And so being in a room like this brings me to human biodiversity, thought, energy, feeling, vibration. And that biodiversity of just being in a room of like-minded, you know, individuals and brands and businesses is always good. And that, you know, that being in the space of others that we can all share and bounce ideas, like how great has this chat been today? This is us living the regenerative principles of biodiversity, you know, so yeah, awesome. I really appreciated it.
All right, thanks, guys. So we are done. I did forget to mention that we are doing a Clubhouse chat tomorrow, Fridays at 6 p.m. My time. I think that's your morning, Saturday, Ray. If you can make it, I'll send you an invite. Russ will send you an invite as well. Corey, are you on
please.
Clubhouse?
Don't know what that is.
Okay, cool. I'll if you want to just put your because it goes by phone number. It's an app. Basically, it's just audio. It's like best way that I can describe Clubhouse is it's like a chat radio for the people. That's the way I like to describe it. So it's like you can get on and you can be on your own personal chat radio and then invite people onto your personal chat and radio, right? And so you can create your own club, and that club can then, it's just audio, so you can have that club create a room, and that room could be talking on a certain subject or whatever, and then you're on a stage and you just invite people onto that stage to talk with you on whatever topic, right? And so it's kind of a fun, it's a new and fun social networking, but we're going to be on Clubhouse tomorrow. And what we're doing there is we're just sharing our Regenpreneur journey, what has happened this week, and trying to mix and mingle with other Regenpreneurs, similar to what we're doing here, but it's on another platform and in a different way.
And you don't need invite anymore. It's open. It's as of today, I think. You know, you don't need invite anymore. It's open to everybody.
Open to everybody.
Wow.
Cool.
There you go.
I was going to say, yeah, put your number in.
Just download it.
In the chat, and I was going to send you an invite, but if it's up to today to be able to just to download the app and get in there, go ahead and do that. Find it, Clubhouse. If you're an Apple user, so should be in there. Android is still a newer app, so I'm not sure if they're still doing invites or whatever for the Android platform, but Apple's definitely open.
Open to everybody, because I know somebody's got Android and they've got it on there today.
Oh, cool. That's good to know. They're usually a little bit behind on Android, so that's why I brought that up. I'm the Android user.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. I'll chat with you next week. It's the same time every week, so come join us, Corey. We'd love to have you.
Bring your friends.
Everybody. Good morning, Ray.
Thank you. Happy Friday from me.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening. Good morning.
Ciao.
Bye.